Hello everyone, welcome back to the Ehcache public dev meeting. This is the first one for 2016, and
Happy New Year to everyone.
I guess that's the start.
Guess so.
And at least I have a few things that I want to cover and discuss, which relates to the current work being done on listeners and some discoveries while looking on that code and around it. So I don't know if any of you guys has stuff they want to add
Not really.
to the conversation.
No, I think both our agendas were in common.
Yep. Okay. The first one might be the easiest to cover. So when looking around the event listening stuff, I stumbled again upon the cache entry API, which is what you get to when you use an iterator on the cache. And as you may know, we're not too fond of offering an iterator on a cache. We think that's a weird use case for a cache. You normally don't iterate over the contents of a cache. But as it happens today, the cache entry API offers features that are not available anywhere else. And these features are a view inside some of the metadata associated to a cache mapping, such as its creation date, its last update time, and a hit rate. And when you think about it, iterator, we don't think it should be a first-class feature. It's really for unidentified use cases, I would say today, except that it's common on data structures. And we have unique features offered through it. So the suggestion is actually to drop these metadata from that cache entry API, which then would make us consistent with what you can do with a cache entry in GSR 107, which has three methods, one that gets the key, the other one that gets the value, and the third one which is an unwrap method, so that you can get the specific type of the underlying implementation. And so by doing that, we would remove that unique feature from the iterator, which may of course leave a hole if some users actually depend on being able to access these metadata. But that's going to be up to Ehcache users to let us know about that, either now or later, because what we think we can do is, if we end up having interest in such an API, we should probably add it somewhere that's not iterator related. And the somewhere and the how would be completely dependent on what we can hear from the community on that topic. So, any comments, disagreement on that?
Now that I think about it, I wonder why. Well, sorry. I wonder if the hit rate that we maintain in the metadata is of any use anymore. Since the metadata is only accessible from the stores, what's the point of that hit rate? I don't think you can see it in the eviction veto. You can't see it in the listeners.
No.
You can't see it from anywhere.
No, neither the listeners, nor the veto, nor the expiring. So veto events, so eviction events and expiry, none of these, when you want to implement a custom strategy or a custom listener or that kind of stuff, none of these give you access to that kind of metadata.
Oh, but I suppose it's still useful to implement the eviction policy that's internal to the store.
Yep.
Okay.
So it still makes sense for eviction.
Yes.
Internally, it's not publicly available
anymore
as of today, but it's internally still useful.
Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe that's something we want to discuss if that hasn't been done yet. The fact that we have done something about the eviction.
Yeah, sure. What
So
you
I was
want
just
to?
saying the same thing as Ludovic, but muted.
Okay,
Which is,
let's go.
yeah. So how much can you customize it still? You can't plug in your own implementation, right? Because the prioritizer doesn't exist anymore.
You
Correct.
can't plug in a prioritizer anymore, but you can still plug in a veto.
Right. Can you choose a prioritizer, or you just get the one you're given?
What we're deciding for the moment is that we're gonna go with one prioritizer. That's it.
And what is that prioritizing based on at the moment? It's LRU.
Yeah,
LRU.
LRU, yes,
So the hit rate is useless.
that's true.
So we can get it, and all the logic maintains it, and the space is taken up by it, and so on.
Yep, that's correct.
Now,
That's a
whether
good
we can
remark.
better encapsulate the metadata stored by the eviction prioritizer, I don't know. I don't know. But
No, no, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, but
Um,
if my memory serves, we also had the idea of maybe rewriting completely the eviction of the on-heap
yeah,
store, or has that evolved?
yes, yes, but basically what we're saying at this point is that we don't expose any entry metadata to anyone,
Mm-hmm.
um,
no,
and therefore, as far as the store is concerned, the entry metadata is transparent.
What do you
Well,
mean with
opaque.
transparent?
Sorry, opaque. Well, the store doesn't care about what metadata is being stored. It just needs to store it. The only thing that needs to care is the code that handles the eviction, and it needs to be able to do two things. It needs to be able to read it to do the prioritization, and it
yep.
needs to be able to write it when things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if there can be better encapsulation of that data. But it's fine for the moment. For the moment, I would say get up the hit rate stuff, all the variables used to store it, or the code that updates it, blah blah blah. Leave the last access time because it's still used for LRU, and we'll cross the bridge of trying to see if there's a cleaner abstraction you can put in there when we change when we do work on the eviction prioritizer.
Yep, yep. And so some of the reasons we changed a number of things on eviction was because of performance results that were pointed to us, but we also found ourselves and confirmed. And so we had to look at what we could do to improve that. But that's also a nice segue into what's upcoming. Um, but yeah, we'll probably defer that to later in the meeting. What's upcoming? Let's discuss the other topics.
Yeah, but I think we can say that as a summary, the identified bottleneck was the eviction of the on-heap store.
Yes, that's one thing that was costing us a lot. Yes.
So
And
that's
so
why we decided to
yep,
make it more opaque so that we can apply way more aggressive optimizations to it.
yes, yes. And we may at one point reintroduce some customization or some options, but we want to do that. I mean, the thing that we decided was that we're better off cutting some APIs, some functionality before we do the first release than being stuck with them. So that's for the sake of being able to evolve more freely and deliver what we think is most important. Um, the second thing that's happening relates to the events. So for the moment, most of the eventing responsibility was at the cache level, which means it was the cache implementation that took care of firing creation, update, and remove events. We already had discussed the fact that we needed to separate firing of the event internally in the code and firing the event to the outside world because of the different modes we have, like synchronous, asynchronous, and ordered, unordered. And what we discovered also is that the firing of these events at the cache level was a problem because we still needed to do some stuff, at least at the store level, because the store has the expiry and eviction responsibilities. And so we were kind of in a mixed world, not very clear, not easy to implement in a clean way. And so what's being currently worked on by myself is pushing down everything to the store level and try to rationalize the whole eventing subsystem, making it more efficient when it's not making it as free as possible when nobody has any listeners, and making it as efficient as possible when you start having listeners. And so in that context, one of the harder issues that I'm coming up against is the fact that we've tried to be very strict at the store level because we have defined an SPI. We want potential contributors to be able to implement their own store implementation if they think it's worth it. And the way event listening was done is that you just enabled event listening on the store level, and it would just expect you to fire on expiry and on eviction events. Now that it's solely the responsibility of the store, we need to make sure it can still be turned on and off. But we also need to account for the way we've chosen in the implementation in Ehcache, which is separating the firing of the event and internally and its firing to the outside world, while not encumbering the interface with these implementation details. And so that's something that's still under discussion, trying to find the proper way of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think so. I was writing tests for the store SPI test, and then I realized that I was not only asserting that we were properly getting the expected events, but I was also asserting that we were properly demarcating the events boundaries of a call. And I was like, oh crap, that's implementation detail. It should not be part of the SPI test. The SPI test should limit itself to, if you do a put, there was no value, I'm expecting you to fire me a creation event. If you do a put, there was a value, I'm expecting you to do a update event. If you do a compute and there was a value and in the end there is no value, I'm expecting a remove event. And maybe some more specific use case, such as if there was a value, you're putting me a new value, but the new value happens to be expired immediately, then it's actually an update followed by a expire event. And that makes sense for me to be specified, because I think then if you implement your store, if you respect these contracts, then there is no surprise with what happens with regards to events. But the fact that we go for the moment for a system where we fire the event internally and defer the external firing, that's our own implementation detail. But it becomes harder then to inject, to at lifetime enable, disable that functionality at the store level while just working with a bare bones interface that's only concerned about events firing. So that's that's an open question for the moment.
I'm not sure there is much else to say on the topic.
No, so people interested follow what's happening on GitHub, the pull request and everything. Anything else that one of you guys wanted to mention?
There is one thing that we discussed, and you said it
Yes.
might be a smart idea to discuss it now.
And I just remember now. And it's again linked to inventing and transactional caches.
That's not what I had in mind.
Okay.
What I had in mind is related to resilience strategy and statistics. You remember that? When you do an action on your cache and the resilience strategy intervenes, say, I don't know, you know your resilience strategy can do whatever it wants, even if at the moment all it does is just a removal. So you do a get, there was a problem, the resilience strategy intervenes, and there was a value, it removes it, and then your sorry, your cache says, oh, it was a miss. So the statistics of the cache say, oh, there was an extra miss. There is absolutely no way to figure out that the resilience strategy did something about that. That it's a miss, but it's a bit special because we had to do some cleanup.
Yeah. Indeed.
So, Chris, any opinion on that subject?
Don't care. In the sense that I don't think it much matters what stats show there. I think it's enough of a corner.
Well, at the very least, we should have a statistic in the resilience strategy that says how many times it did something.
Why?
Because if it does absolutely zero thing, you know, the communication between my system of records and
I
my
guess
cache.
I guess the resilience strategy can have its own statistics if you want it to. Yeah, sure. I don't think anyone's going to look at them.
Well,
I mean, if the resilience strategy is intervening, it's going to be invalidating, right? Is our common assumption, which if it's a problem, you're going to perceive as increased load on your system of record. If it's not causing increased load in your system of record, then some argument could be made it's not a problem.
Yeah, but when you see that after the fact, you might wonder, oh, is that because I had a a load spike and not enough cache to handle it, or was it because my resilience strategy evicted
in that sense? Yeah, maybe you can keep a track of.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the use case you're describing, Ludovic, just isn't better answered by logging in that case. For the historical stuff, compared to the statistics. The statistics is more for the current live system. Although, again...
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is to remember is that anything that's done by the resilience strategy does go through bigger API calls.
Yes, although that, yes. Yeah.
Invalidate, I think the method's called.
Yep.
That's true.
So, in that sense, it is tracked. Maybe there's no. I mean, I don't see that there's great harm in adding stats to the default implementation of the resilience strategy to record that it's doing those things. So maybe if you're not sure, you can figure out.
Yeah, in my mind, that's the kind of things we'll know better when we work on that. So maybe on that context, and some of it may be repetition, but so we're hoping to have feature complete milestone mid-February 2016.
Right.
And feature complete means we're finishing the event thing, we're finishing the byte sizing for the heap tier, doing cleanups and applying consistency on the configuration system, and that's about it. So features that we wanted to port from Ehcache to X, which will be delayed to a later release, are the sizing of caches at the cache manager level, so what was called ARC, Automatic Resource Control, and the one introduced in Ehcache 3.0, which is a resilience strategy. And the reason for these two is that we believe they would be better defined if they come at a point where Ehcache clustering is available as well, because then we will be able to cover the proper full stack of the Ehcache feature set.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so once the milestone 5 is released, then focus will be on documentation, testing, and performance improvements. and hopefully with a steady stream of release candidates, reaching out to a final release later this year. So that's the plan. And with that, I don't know if we have. Oh yeah, the one thing I mentioned. So one other thing we discussed with event and transaction is that we had code in the transaction that was kind of paying attention to is the firing of the event on the transaction thread or outside of it, but actually that happened internal to the cache, which means it's always on the transaction thread. And so we've updated that to actually only fire events when a transaction has been committed. So the logic would be if you do modification to the cache under a transaction scope, which is the only way to do the modification to a transactional cache, you won't see any events up to the point you commit. And when you commit the transaction as part of the transaction commit, all the events will be fired. So that's the.
No, I won't say it. What if the thing that the listener's driving is partaking in the transaction? I.e., it might want to know before commit.
Yeah, let's see if somebody comes up with such a use case. We can always.
Wish we could have done that with listeners overall, but
add config stuff. But yeah. So as we've said in the IRC channel, that ship has sailed with GSR 107 on it a while ago. Yep. Okay. So I guess that's it for this first meeting of the year. Oh yes, and the meetings will now appear on the Ehcache YouTube channel, which was recently created. I'm trying to find a way to move, or at least reference, the old dev meeting from it. But that doesn't seem to be a basic YouTube feature, so I may have to ask for them and then re-upload them. We'll see.
Yeah, or just link. I mean, the links are stable. You can.
Yes, but see, you can't. I don't know. Or in then it's in the description of the channel that I need to link to them because I can't have something.
Yeah.
Maybe I can make a playlist of them and make the playlist public. That might be one trick.
Yeah, you might be able to do that.
And so most likely no meeting, no public dev meeting next week, as we're all traveling and will be.
Well, we could.
Yeah, I think. Let's be honest. We have a pretty busy agenda.
Pretty busy schedule.
I'm thinking about 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
That sounds more feasible rather than trying to say we will do it and then not do it. So,
cool.
Have a good day, evening, night, depending on your time zone or the time you watch this. And see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.